Good afternoon. On behalf of all of us at Mary MacKillop Today, I warmly welcome you to this special online event. My name is Siobhan Reynolds, and I'm the Marketing and Communications Director here at Mary MacKillop Today. I'd like to begin our session by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the various lands from which we meet. Here in North Sydney, I am on the land of the Camaragal people of the Eora Nation. We pay our respects to elders and leaders, past, present, and emerging, and we acknowledge and respect the continuing culture and the contribution they make to life in our regions and communities. This event is our opportunity to show the impact your support has made over the past year and to celebrate the imminent arrival of Christmas, the time of joy, peace, and hope. We are so glad so many of you could join us today, and we're so grateful for your generous and continued support. By way of housekeeping, please be assured that you cannot be seen or be heard by today's hosts or any of the guests. If you do have any issues, please use the Q&A buttons at the bottom of your screen. You can also use that button if you'd like to ask us any questions at any time during the session. We'd love to receive questions, and we will do our best to answer them at the end of the presentation. Today, we will hear from our CEO, Jane Walford, and our International Programs and Quality Director, Tessa Henwood-Mitchell. I'd like to start by introducing Jane to share our end-of-year update.
Thanks so much, Siobhan, and welcome to everyone. As Siobhan said, it's fantastic to have so many of you join us here online, and it's really important to us to be able to share with you as we prepare for the year coming to a close, to share with you all the achievements here at Mary MacKillop Today, and to share with you some of the good news stories that you have been so vital in helping to make happen and to make real for communities in Timor-Leste, Peru, Fiji, and of course here in Australia. So we'd really like to just take a little bit of time to share with you some facts and figures, but also some stories. So what has 2023 held for us? We know that the year has been such a difficult one globally. Peace seems far away at times, and in the places where we work, there are so many struggles for people, particularly around education and learning. These are the specialty areas that we at Mary MacKillop Today work within. And we'd like to share with you a few of the stats from the country. So we'll have a look at a couple of slides here. Of course, when we're looking at numbers, they are in one way only statistics. Behind every one of these numbers is a story of an individual, a story of families or communities who have overcome a struggle or who've found some support to help them on a path towards flourishing. And that's what we're about here at Mary MacKillop Today, to assist in the flourishing of all peoples, just like Mary herself did. Here in Australia, we'll start with out in Western New South Wales, where our no interest loans or our NILS program has been running. It's been running, of course, for many years, and we have a lot of community support behind this program. In places like Bathurst, Orange, and in the west of the state, we're offering these no-interest loans, and nearly 700 of them came to fruition this year. They're for people who are at a point of vulnerability, who need something rather urgently within their house. Maybe it's a refrigerator to keep their food fresh and cool, which in turn, of course, protects, it brings a level of protection for their finances so that they are not always buying takeaway food and expending a lot of money feeding their family. We hear stories like that. The majority of those loans actually are around vehicles, and that's because people in the country, in regional areas, depend very much on a vehicle, whether it be to get to job interview or to get to work and maintain a job. So these are really important loans when it comes to people being able to register cars so that they can get out to work, pay the bills. And it gives them a step ahead with paying back the loan to us at no interest. It's a huge help. We support them with vouchers for power, and as we all know, the price of electricity and other forms of energy has just been going up, and that is putting a lot of pressure on vulnerable families. Moving on now to another very popular program, and a program again that has so much of our community support, is with our First Nations students. And we've been able to deliver nearly 50 scholarships this year, or scholarships to nearly 50 students. They have been in a whole range of course areas. We see students coming to us from faculties of medicine, education and teaching, law, physiotherapy. A number of students are doing things like criminal forensic studies. It's a nursing, of course, a real range of support. And this one small loan, not a scholarship rather, it's not a huge scholarship, but consistently we are told by these students that it gives them that edge, that being able to have those funds to support their everyday expenses, or as some additional accommodation support, books and learning resources, these really make the difference and take the pressure off the student, particularly where, we're talking to young women students who are First Nations peoples, and they have young children and they're still studying, keeping the family going and providing for the family. So they've really got the pressure on when they're studying and learning. So we'll keep them going, of course, into next year, but we've been really happy to see 7 of our students graduate this year with their degrees. Internationally now, learning across all of our overseas partnerships is varied, but one of our backbone type programs is there in Timor-Leste. As you probably have heard me speak about before, we have a very strong teacher training program in remote communities there, across a whole number of schools. And within the 36 schools where our training took place this year, we had over 100 teachers taking part in really solid professional learning that they would not otherwise get, because usually they are teaching in areas where government is not able to provide that additional professional learning support. We've distributed tens of thousands of resources, and the majority of those being early learning readers and books written in Teton language, the main local language in East Timor. And those stories are local stories written by local people with really culturally appropriate artwork for the kids there. Alongside the teacher training within those school communities, we also train the parents. And that provides a real wraparound family support, because we know with our own kids, when we are able to support literacy and numeracy at home in those early years, the outcome for our children is so much better. So that's all really important to us. And you can see the breadth of our reach there on that page. Moving forward now, just one of the many teachers who took part in our program, Thomasina, had this to say about the support she received. It may be surprising for us here in Australia, but health literacy, some of the basic messages around health, are so vitally important there. A couple of weeks ago, I was up in Timor as part of a monitoring visit, and we attended a day that was a Mary MacKillop Today celebration of International Hand Washing Day. And local government officials came. We had lots of school children and teachers there. And the big reminder that washing hands, something we may take for granted within our family life, is so important there at keeping illness at bay, illnesses like diarrhea and stomach bugs. And for very young children and the elderly in those communities, it can be very serious and even cause death. So that's one of the fundamental messages. At that celebration, I was able to see these setups for hand washing alongside the schools that were big water buckets with a little tap on them. And at the end of the celebration, all the kids put their hands in some paint and they put their hand marks on the wall and created a big artwork, and then they washed their hands using that very basic tap process, which of course works really well in those circumstances. So on we go now to Fiji. Fiji, our program continued into the second phase of a 3-year period of this training program with women in remote villages of Fiji. And we had 48 participants there across those 4 communities, learning so many different life learning experiences, whether it be budgeting workshops, looking at health and health for their families, looking at small trade activities. And all of this builds towards a program for them where we support them to start a livelihood program for them as an individual. And we've seen those women who have graduated from the last course start financial programs that where they've started small businesses, and in turn, because they're earning that income for their families and within their community, their esteem as women in their communities is really raised, which is really important to their safety as well. So on we go now finally to Peru. And while guinea pigs might be something that we keep in a cage as a household pet with our kids, perhaps, in Peru, guinea pigs are, of course, a major source of protein. They are really easy to raise. They grow quickly. They're very tasty, I'm told, but I haven't partaken in that pleasure as yet. And this year we saw students in our vocational programs in their hundreds learning how to care for guinea pigs, to how to breed them, some of the agriculture and gardens work that they do, and learning about hospitality and hotel services to prepare them for roles in their communities. And we know Peru was really hard hit by COVID over the past few years. So that bounce back and that opportunity for students to learn is so important. And then also in Peru, we have moved into youth entrepreneurship training. Our partners, our local organisations there through whom we work, have identified this as a real need in their communities. And so we're happy to support that work and that training. And that exists alongside another program, which is about women's leadership, where women are learning and being trained into speaking up, to advocating for both themselves and their families and their communities. This is a really important activity that is really bringing such a benefit to communities of women. So that's a little bit of an overview. As our annual report is now about to go to print, very soon you'll see on our website a whole lot more facts and figures about this year 2023 and the enormous number of achievements we've been able to succeed in with, of course, your very generous support. But let's move now to a bit of a Christmas message. This year, we are featuring a lady called Herminia who lives in Timor-Leste. She's a grandmother, and really, I think rather than tell you her story myself, I'll let her tell you in her own words. So we've got a short video to share her story.
Nenara Hermina do céu. hela fati suku Patukero, aldea Palimano. Ia uma o hela hoaunia wan mane fetopo nuan feto beuang makiha uma. Ain haknya abomina hoto. Beli ida kikuan sernemas bolu hawa abomina los. Ida boto hinema bolu hawa amperi. Ida mai abomina. Nem hau contente ga. Uluk hau lah hatene hakerek naran. Hau kan sekolah Indonesia ne kan ladiak do. Sekolah Indonesia ne hanorin ne ba halimardet. Buka baku malu det, tuku malu det. Antau makane ita lah hatene. ABC mos ita lah hatene, undoes mos ita lah hatene. Feri ko katua sira diang dekliu ita busu osam mos ser lafo diang osam laya. Mane mak ba sekolah feto la vele. Osam laya. Tau lo osam laya la batira. Sik ba hau serviço det para dodo fale hau na mão seraba. Mão seraba escola fale. Agora põe uma que escola fale, hau tene hakere kituan, leituan. Ami aprende com a reza, tama hotu reza. Reza hotu, põe uma que tama hakere. Canta hotu ami hakere. Hakere kotu to remata ami pinta desenho. Pinta desenho remata to ami canta fale. Ulu kami urus surat dokumento serne ami ba ema makakere kami nyanarang. Depois ema dan nain duni maka asina. Lai hau asina hau lahaten. Ai ben iha po mai hau hane. Tau po ai ben mai hau hane. Tau bahwala sesama sanesan. Presu ema kolia deang hansane. Mas ema bosa kita lahane sane lato. Ora mudança tambah saya Mary po informação dane. Ami la hatenemos, ami hatene ona. ABC 1, 2, ne ami conhece letra, o tuan hatene ona. Neve ansa, ami ba banco ka, ami ba halo bolso estudo ka bolso de mai nam nuan seranian ka. Ne ami akera krasi kami nyanaran, ami asinarasi, ami fote. Neve a mudança ona. Ne livro serne bema qual mais de angkata how sempre estuda sempre hanorin how no oan how ne beuan sira ida nemak how tau pentimba ne para how mos bele po estuda sera kik ne torre mata ne para sera bele comprende hoto how la bele halo na kles la bele halo fuer tambane fo diak baita ho itane uang ho itane beuan sira. Ita hatene hahoris, ita hatene pohanoi basira. Pohanoi basira la vele baku, la vele tolo, la vele hiru sokasar, ne la vele. Se ne mata ven sai vivek sira tristi. Ne stira ne kakutak ne halai sala ona halai sala he stira Hanoi nar biru losona atu Hanoi los babe puturu babam baru ne laya kita nema kita po Hanoi agora dadau kita tengki po Hanoi baitanuan serakik deuan serakik la vele sai hanesan ulu kabon sera ina nama sera hakarak sera Timor mudansa uan ho beuan sera mas mudansa
So there you have it. It's hard to imagine reaching one's grandparenting years before learning to read and write. But that is Avo Mina's story. I do hope if I have the privilege of becoming a grandparent myself, I would have half the energy of Avo Mina. But I was in Timor just 2 weeks ago on a monitoring trip. And those programs we were able to see live and happening with the Mary MacKillop Today field-based officers and trainers and teachers out there teaching parents and teachers in the classroom up in the remote mountain areas. So let's have a little bit more of a chat about that, in fact. And I'd like to introduce you now to my travel companion from that trip, one of them, and who also happens to be our International Programs and Quality Director, and that's Tessa Henwood Mitchell. Hi, Tessa. I guess I'll throw our attention to that photograph there on the right. What on earth is that vehicle? Why is it?
Thanks, Jane. That's a great question. So as you mentioned, we were in Timor a couple of weeks ago visiting our team over there, and you'll see the photo on your screens is myself looking quite excited about a car that we're standing next to with and Sister Louise is in that photo, who is one of the members of the congregational leadership team of the Sisters of St. Joseph, who was also with us on that trip, along with Kieran Gleeson, who's our chair of the board of Mary MacKillop Today. So this car that you're seeing on your screens is a bit of a spectacle in Timor-Leste because it's only one of two cars like this. The reason we have that car is so that our teams can travel to the really remote rural locations that our programs are delivered in. One of our core principles as an organisation is reaching the margins, as Mary MacKillop and the Sisters of St. Joseph do, in working with the most remote populations that don't have access to the same kind of opportunities that people in more urban areas do. So in keeping with that, our teams travel out to really far away places, and often they're hard to reach physically. So the roads are quite treacherous. They can be very, very bumpy and unsealed and difficult for regular cars to get to. So we have this car and a number of other cars that enable us to do that, and our team to access those places, as well as multiple motorbikes, because some places are even difficult to access by car. So motorbikes are the alternative. So our team really get around in lots of different ways, but it just shows our commitment to really reaching places that other NGOs and organisations don't always get to. So a lot of the time we're the only ones that are delivering any kind of programs in some of these locations, and it's a really important part of our work. But also, helps to raise awareness about our work by people noticing this car on the streets, as you can imagine. It's a very fun car to travel in as well.
So we did travel in that vehicle with our very excellent and safe driver up into a program that also appears in the photographs here, we went up to a village in the mountains called Cacao, which is a lovely name. I'm being called after chocolate, effectively, cocoa. And here you see the vanilla farmer in his garden, in what were beautiful gardens. So we have a program there that is a co-op program, effectively. And up in this particular community, some of you may recall, if you receive our 6-monthly newsletter, Mary's News Today, about 2 years ago, we featured a farmer called Adolfo around his self-determination work and working in this garden. And this is Adolfo's son, who's really become a leader in this village from what we experienced a couple of weeks ago. And you can see him there pollinating the plants he was showing us. And after he showed us how that was done, all the kids were having a go, because the children of this little community, you know, before they go to school, they have jobs, and some of the jobs are to go out and pollinate the vanilla beans, really, the vanilla flowers. So it's really quite incredible, and it's very beautiful. They are an amazing community, because it's not just about the vanilla, which they're growing very, very successfully. You'll also see in this next series of photos that in Adolfo's farm on the hillside here, they've managed to irrigate these gardens and the gardens of the community. Now, that was quite incredible, because at the moment it's the peak of the dry season. It's known along the coast often as the hungry season, because everything is dried out. And people were very worried when we were there the other week, because the rains had not yet come and they were running very late. And you know, we know all about climate change and these impacts. But regardless, it was quite extraordinary to see the water that was in this community, because they built an irrigation system across the hillsides. The middle photo there is actually the bamboo that's been cut down to run as a pipe work into those ponds. They did have some other kind of rubber piping, but of course, because all that costs money, and you know, they could only go so far with that. So they're very ingenious in finding ways and means and resources to make things like this happen. This community had accessed support in the program too, to build these concrete ponds. And what you can't see there is that one of the bigger ponds off the centre of the photo there actually was full of fish. And as the wet season comes on, they will be breeding a lot more fish. So right here in this garden, we were looking at this variety of vegetables to feed the family, vegetables to go to market, fish as a source of protein for all those families, and of course the excess to go to market, water for the gardens coming out of that same system. And the vanilla, which, while there is a local market, the people are growing successfully and continuing to learn from our agricultural trainers better and better techniques, because their hope is that they will get a stronger, bigger market for the vanilla. And you and I know how much vanilla costs. It's a very good cash crop. But that remains to be seen, how far they can go with that. But it's all integrated, and it's part of a kind of a multi-sector sort of cooperative, which government wants to really develop. And we were able to, in Dili, have a meeting with that Ministry of the Co-ops to talk further about their plans and how our programs were tying in with that, so that we're all heading in the same direction. That photo on the left, you can see little Sister Louise there in that little shed, which is now being built over the ponds, so that Adolfo and the other farmers who are getting skilled up and working with our trainers can hold training workshops there, so that the families and the communities learn from each other. You might want to tell us too, Tessa, about, you know, the other part of the cooperative work that village shared with us.
Yeah, so the women's cooperative work, is that what you're referring to, Jane?
Yes, and the savings and loans.
Oh, yeah. So there's a lot of different components of this work that we're doing in the livelihoods space in Timor-Leste. And one really important component of that work that we do with these communities is developing savings and loans programs. So that essentially enables the cooperative members that join the cooperatives that we support to set up. It enables them to access funds from a collective capital fund that they all contribute to. And that enables the farmers in this case, or other community members, to access the funds they might need to purchase something or get a business started. So it's a really effective system that operates in a lot of places, whereby, you know, everyone joins together to provide the funds that individuals might need to get their business set up or their initiative set up. And that's been working really, really well in this case, and also in another project we have that's focusing on women's livelihoods and working predominantly with women so that they can also access a livelihood through a number of different businesses and income generating activities. So it's a really exciting approach that we've been working on in these last few years, and we're really excited about where that's going to head into the future as well.
Yeah, it's a really rapid impact we saw there with the community who hadn't been part of such a program before, until Mary MacKillop Today commenced that, and they're seeing change very quickly, real improvements to food basket, livelihood, and general health. So here we'll just move forward now. The other part of our trip involved meetings with government, and here on the left-hand side you can see with our chairman, Kieran Gleeson, we were able to have a meeting with the president of Timor-Leste, Jose Ramos Horta, who's very well known, and he gave us almost an hour and a half of time to share his thoughts about the country and the country's needs. He spoke quite a bit about the issues around water. He certainly talked about the needs for education and for children, the complexities of the various languages that are in place in the teaching system up there. And he's very well aware of the support of Australian people to organisations like ourselves, very aware of your help to our programs in making them happen. So it was a real privilege to meet with him and to hear some of his thoughts and to share our own about where we may be able to provide further support. On the right is the meeting we held with the new Minister for Education. And again, it's very easy for organisations from different countries, you know, come in as foreigners and have opinions on how to best teach kids and teachers. We prefer not to take that approach, and that is why our relationship with government is really important. So our country director, Alipia Baltazar, who's sitting closest to the minister there at the far end of the table, he leads those relationships on our behalf, and that means that we tie our programs into the overall ambition for the country. So at the moment, one of the really big priorities is teaching reading through phonics in the very first years of schooling, in the early years. And that's certainly what our teacher training program is doing. So we were able to talk about those kinds of issues with the minister and her advisors. And to share our commitment to keep going. And she thanked us very, very sincerely and asked us to pass on our thanks to our supporters for the work we are able to do. We might move ahead now. I know Tessa will be able to share a little bit more about programs, but the other really big piece of work for us as an organisation this year was that we wrote a new strategic plan. We're now 5 years old. We're into our 6th year, well and truly, as Mary MacKillop Today. And so the next 5 years are really important as well. And we're facing them with a great deal of ambition and hope and joy. I just wanted to share a few little insights from that strategic plan, which again will be very shortly available on our website, and you'll be able to get a more full picture. But a couple of things. where we're pursuing perhaps new areas, education has always, of course, been part of our work and very central to what we do, education and learning for life. So we are recommitting, of course, to equity in education. And equity in education means that people have access to quality education, access and quality. And I think, you know, a couple of the stories we've told today exemplify that. The other thing that occurred to us in the reflection process this year was that economic independence is a real outcome of our work, and it often is one of the products of education and learning, of course. So we want to be able to see the communities with whom we work achieve that independence and that economic well-being. We are looking at active citizenship because many of our learning programs lead people, and particularly women and girls, to have a voice, to speak up, to be actively involved in their communities, to bring about change, for them to identify what the needs are for their communities and to come together to form responses to that. And you know, for us to just simply provide the support that may be needed for them to achieve that. So citizenship is an important part of this pillar, of one of our pillars, and it in turn means that we in Australia are called to be active in our citizenship here in Australia, and our global citizenship in terms of support, generosity, learning ourselves about other cultures and places and challenges, and forming our own responses in how we choose to live and how we choose to speak up. And speaking up is really the fourth pillar, that we, as Mary MacKillop Today, recognise that we're here to amplify voices, to tell stories of those who experience marginalisation, of those who experience injustice, poverty, and also to amplify our own voices in speaking up on behalf of people and in acting and responding. So they are the pillars on which we build the next strategy. And as part of that, we retain our core principles and add a couple more that have really come out of our reflection process. Women at the heart, like the Sisters of St. Joseph, who are our founders, continues to be a central aspect of our principles and our values. We always strive to reach the margins. Those margins are often in regional and rural remote areas, like Mary herself. Her first work was going to those places within Australia. We have a strong principle around human dignity, that the dignity of people comes so strongly through them having the opportunity for self-determination, not communities being told what the solutions are to their challenges, but of the communities themselves determining that for themselves. And our role at Mary MacKillop Today is to support the process, work alongside and walk with. We have a strong belief in locally led partnership. So wherever we can, we hand the voice, the decisions, the resources to those at the local level. So our partnership is all about that, wherever that can happen. And we are looking at developing our pioneering spirit. We were founded by an incredible pioneer, Mary MacKillop herself, and we imbibe that spirit and take it forward where we come across new areas for work and engagement, where we find new possibilities for innovation, innovative solutions. That's where we want to be at Mary MacKillop Today. So I'll pass to Tessa now to just briefly add a few points about where we see 2024 going.
Thank you, Jane. So yeah, the next 12 months for us are pretty action-packed, and we've got a lot in store for all our program work across the 4 different countries that we're currently working in. So I'll just talk you through, I guess, our key focus areas and the work that we're doing in each country. So I'll speak on behalf of our Director of Australian Programs, who's not in the webinar today, Maria, to say that in Australia, our focus is on the equine assisted learning project that has just been confirmed to continue for the next couple of years, and that's around supporting young people, Indigenous people, to access support in receiving therapy through working with horses. And then we also have confirmed 20 community grants that we're delivering this year to different community organisations and groups around the country. And we're also providing 35 tertiary scholarships to First Nations students, also through a number of different universities that we're partnered with. Then moving into Timor-Leste, as you've been able to see, the work that we've been doing and the visit that we had over there and some of the important projects. We're continuing all of those projects and looking at, in the second half of next year, in next financial year, we'll be looking at adding a new municipality to the locations that we're working in. We're also working on really looking at where the livelihoods or economic independence work in Timor-Leste is going to be going over these next few years. So that's going to be a big part of our focus this year, is really exploring that and thinking about what that's going to look like for us in, you know, working with the vanilla farmers and potentially some other work focusing on really rewarding and supporting people to access a livelihood. We're also working on developing our country strategy for Timor-Leste and also all of the rest of our countries as part of our strategic planning process. So that's going to be in the works in these next 12 months. In Peru, Jane and myself will actually be travelling to Peru in just over a week, along with Yesenia, who's our program coordinator for Peru. And we'll be spending about a week and a half travelling around the country to visit all of our partners there in the projects and to see how they're going, and also to meet with a few different people, including the ambassador, the Australian ambassador in Peru, to talk about what the focus areas in Peru are for the Australian government, and generally for us to really learn from all our partners as well what their key priorities are, and to really look at where our projects will be heading over these next few years, building on the work that we've been currently doing there. We then can go into Fiji. So then in Fiji, we have, as Jane went through some of our work that we've been doing in Fiji, 2 of our projects are going really, really well over there. We've got the one project that you can see some of the participants in those photos from Project Talitha, the women's leadership project that we support in Fiji. That's coming to the end of its second 3-year cycle that we've been supporting our partner to deliver this project. And so we'll be conducting an external evaluation just to really look at what that project has achieved and where it's at, and consider the learnings from that evaluation in thinking about what the future might hold for that project. And we have a new project that's in its pilot stage at the moment, working with young women who have psychosocial disability, in supporting them to access a livelihood through employment or through starting their own businesses. And so we'll also be assessing how that pilot goes over the next few months to consider what the next stage of that project is going to be. We just had a couple of our staff visit Fiji about a week ago or a week and a half ago, and really work with all our partners over there and connect with them. And so there's a lot of excitement for where our Fiji projects will be going in this next 12 months, which we'll keep all of you updated on. And all of this work is, you know, really incredibly supported by everyone who's in this call, and we really appreciate that ongoing generosity and support to be able to make all of this work happen, and to continue to grow and build the support that we provide our local partners and our local team in Timor-Leste to deliver this incredible work with the local communities. So thank you so much.
Well, with the few, we do have a few minutes left, but I'll pass over to Siobhan for questions.
Thank you, Jane, and thank you, Tessa, for that. It was really interesting. So we have moved on to the Q&A session of this discussion. We have a couple of questions, but I would encourage all of our everybody who's on this call, if you have something that you'd love to ask Jane or Tessa or anyone at Mary MacKillop Today, please do pop it in the Q&A part. So I would like to start. We've been asked, how many local staff are there in Timor-Leste?
I think that's one for you, Tessa.
So in our local office, currently there's 52 local staff, and that includes a real range of staff, so including our management staff, our project delivery staff, our trainers for teacher training and parent training, and then we have field-based officers who are actually based out in the field in a couple of the locations that we're working in. And then we also have some drivers who are the people that manage some of those really tough roads. And we have some caretakers who look after the space that our team work in. So we've got quite a large team of really incredible local professionals led by, as Jane mentioned earlier, our incredible country director, Olipio.
Great, thank you, Tessa. And the second question is, are the cost of living pressures impacting our work internationally as well as in Australia?
Yes, I think they certainly are. We definitely see that. One thing we've recently experienced is the value of the Australian dollar against the US dollar has obviously had a drop. And for us, that does have an impact because we in Timor-Leste, you may realise that the currency is the US dollar. And of course, well, not so much in Peru because we can buy in the local currency now, which alleviates some of that problem. But just from that point of view alone, that then has an impact on our program budgets and our expenditure. So we really have to watch that and be careful with that. The second thing that question brings to mind is that here in Australia, we're definitely seeing the impact. And the most obvious place where that comes up is in our financial inclusion program. So with the no interest loans that we offer, we are experiencing that the phone is ringing even more intensely with people inquiring about loans. Our staff out in Western New South Wales are getting more calls where people really are in crisis and find that number to call. And it's not just in Bathurst. As a result of our engagement in that work, our staff, even in Sydney, are sometimes picking up the phone to people who are in real distress, in financial distress, and who need to share their story. And whether they join our program, which sometimes we can refer them into and support them to apply for a loan, there are times when they, in fact, need to be referred on to other services. But we're seeing that higher level of anxiety at the coalface. So, the needs are great. And part of this approach to Christmas time, we say to you as our supporters, we thank you so, so much for your very generous support in what we have been able to achieve. We know the needs are still there. And we also know that the economy at present, our financial situation is impacting us all in some ways and some more than others. So, we're very realistic in saying whatever is one's capacity to still be able to give, we very much welcome, because we know those needs are only going to get more significant.
Great. Thank you, Jane. Well, that's the end of our Q&A session. But we just wanted to let everybody know that if a question occurs to you after the end of this call, please do feel free to reach out to us at the office. You can get us on email or you can call the office, and anyone on the team would be willing to answer your queries. So thank you.
Yes, we have an email address which is hello@marymacKilloptoday.org.au, an easy one to remember, hello at. Look, thanks, Siobhan, and thank you everyone for joining us today. I hope that's given you it's just a little bit of insight into our work. There are so many programs and so many wonderful stories. I hope more than anything that these stories bring you some hope in a world today that is in such dire need of hope and peace as we approach the Christmas season. And so all of us here at Mary MacKillop Today express our gratitude to you and wish you the very best of Christmases, a Christmas of joy and light and hope, and most of all, peace. Thank you so much.